Committee meeting to order. First thing, we need a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting.
Make a motion.
Supervisor Wood, seconded by Supervisor Conover. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. With that, I'll turn it over to Justin Gagno.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, I want to start off by saying that it looks like you guys are going to have to deal with me for another 63 meetings. Our contract has been extended, and we will be here at least through 2021, so we're very happy about that. And I wanted to personally thank all of the supervisors who showed their support for the contract. And I also want to thank the supervisors who provided with us some of their concerns about the previous contract. Obviously, there's always room for improvement in any organization, and our organization is certainly not immune to that. One of the key components that I heard from a couple supervisors was improved communications. We are taking that to heart, and we have already started down the road of improving communications between the railroad and the supervisors whose towns the railroad actually operates through, including Johnsburg, Thurman, Stony Creek, Luzerne, and Corinth. We've started an email group that will allow the railroad to immediately update any of those supervisors with any concerns that have, or any concerns or incidents that have happened that would affect some type of press release or anything within their town. Basically, it's just a notification chain. I've also spoke with Matt Simpson, who is going to make sure that the minutes from the DPW meetings accurately reflect any amendments to the contract moving forward, so that the supervisors who are not part of the DPW committee are able to see those at later times. So, 5 more years. So now, it is my pleasure to introduce something new to this corridor. About a month ago, I received a phone call from a very enthusiastic gentleman, whom you'll get to meet a little later on, and it was concerning this new recreational opportunity in the area. I'm not really sure what to call it because it's so new. It happened once previous to this up in Saranac Lake. Some of you may be familiar with the rail bikes that were run between Lake Clear and Saranac Lake on the Adirondack Scenic. Well, Renegade Rail Riders has reached out to the SNC, and they would like to put a similar operation on our line, which they have a couple conceptual operation plans in mind, which I'll let them introduce this to you. But it should be viewed as a very important key for economic driving in the communities that it's going to operate in. It's going to provide a lot of foot traffic, it's going to provide jobs, and it's going to provide attraction that's very unique because it will only be the second type of this operation in the United States. So, I think you've heard enough from me. I'm going to introduce Renegade Rail Riders.
Thanks, everyone, for having us here. My name's Robert Hart. I'm one of the founding members of Renegade Rail Riders. My partner, Gus Camp, last year we helped start the first commercial rail biking business in North America. Up in Saranac Lake, it was a huge success. We saw the opportunity to expand rail biking, and so we got in touch with Justin, and we spoke with Wayne at the first corridor. And we just introduced ourselves and introduced what rail biking is and what we think it can bring to this community. So I just wanted to show you, these are rail bikes. When you try to explain it sometimes without visuals, it can get a little bit confusing because in everyone's mind's eye it looks a little different. But it's an activity that's a lot of fun. It's family friendly. It's for all ages. If you can, do you want to show one of the pictures towards the end with the younger kids on there? So you can, we've had people as young as 18 months on these bikes, if you can see the picture in the corner there. And we have harnesses that go in them, and then to people who are as old as 92. And we've also had people of all ability levels on these bikes, because we've had paraplegics on these bikes. So it's something that we really are encouraging people of all makes and sizes and to be a part of this activity. We find it to be a really family-friendly thing, and we had a huge success with it. So our hope here is we're looking at 2 different operations sites, and one of them is at Stony Creek Ranch, which is going to become Stony Creek Ranch. It used to be 1,000-acre ranch, and to Thurman line, and it's about a 4.3 mile run that we're looking at, and it's about an hour and a half total time. And our hope, and then the other one we're looking at is up in North Creek area. So both of them different experiences, 2 different operations, both with challenges, infrastructure challenges, which we can talk more about as we get down the road. There are questions that come up. But we're excited about both these opportunities. What we think we can provide is 14 jobs to the area we're looking at, and obviously the tax revenue that comes from these. We're hoping to bring in, looks like conservative estimates, at least 10 to 11,000 visitors to the area. And this is a destination type of event, so people come here to do this. When we did this last year in Saranac Lake, what we noticed was people were coming from 5 hours away to just come ride these bikes, and a big majority of them would come from the 2.5 hour ride from Saratoga area. So Saratoga Lake George became a big draw for us and a big boon for us. So it sort of put it on our radar that this is an area, and many of the riders would be like, boy, this would be great for Saratoga and North Creek rail line. So we took their advice, and we got in touch with Justin. Other things I think that's all I had. Do you want to bring up anything in particular, Gus, right now at this moment?
No, unless there's questions.
Okay, yeah. I also want to introduce Mike Dupe. He's an advisor on this with us. He's a financial advisor for us right now. So yeah, I welcome any questions that people may have right now, but I just wanted to introduce ourselves and say we'd love to continue this and hope to develop a partnership with Warren County.
Up and back, would they leave 1,000 acres, go to Thurman and back? Or?
So what we would have is there a picture of the bus on this guy?
No.
Okay. So there is the opportunity to do it like that, but we found that we have a bus that we're looking at converting into a high rail vehicle, meaning that they would get on a school bus at Stony Creek Ranch, they would ride down to Thurman, get off the bus, and then get on the rail bikes, which are already down there, and then they would ride the bikes back down to Stony Creek. There is the option too where you could have a turntable, and it wouldn't impede any of the rail lines, where it would actually lift the bike up and turn it around, so if people went halfway, they could turn around and come back down. So, but we envision it as a one-way right now.
What's the cost of a one-way ride?
How much are you willing to pay for it? No, so last year we had, we charged $100 for a quad, so it's about $25 per seat, and $50 for a tandem, and we're looking at comparable pricing. Again, depending on each operation has could be a different amount, because the North Creek one could be a longer run, but around there, around $25 a head.
So at some point, if you ride back down from Thurman to, you got to turn that thing around.
So what happens on the bus, the high rail bus, is that it would actually tow the bikes back up. And in each of the bikes, if you can, I'm not sure if you can see in these pictures, but they have a coupler, so each bike can connect to one another, so they all can be towed together. And you can even have, like, if 2 people wanted to go together, you can hook them on together and they can go. Yes, please.
So you're sharing the same railway with the train?
Yes, and so we're careful on our timing. So they have, so they'll go They have two designated runs, one in the morning and coming back around 5 o'clock. So we would run either an earlier run. It depends on the time of year that we're looking at, but we're looking at hopefully starting in mid-June. We would run an earlier run early in the morning, like 9 a.m., and then get off to the side while the 10 o'clock would come through, and then we'd run 2 or 3 more runs, and then the 5 o'clock train would be coming back through. So we were working that out with Justin.
Basically, it would be all scheduled runs that are dispatched by the Saratoga and North Creek through their Riley Pacific dispatch center.
Yeah, so how long has this been in the works?
With Saratoga and North Creek?
No, yes,
We called Justin 3.5 weeks ago, I think. Yeah.
Here.
And the Thurman to Stony Creek Ranch, that's obviously new too.
Yeah, that's really new, and so.
I guess where I'm coming from is, this is the first I'm hearing about it, and I think it's kind of a cool thing. I think you'll probably get some play. I'm just wondering why we didn't hear from it from other sources when we were talking about the railroad and so forth and so on.
It really is new, though. I mean, there's a lot of lines all over the country, and so we had been looking at other lines, and we love Saratoga and North Creek, but it was on us. We just didn't reach out to Justin until now.
Recently, yeah. He wasn't aware that we had started Renegade Rail Riders as a second company.
And what would you anticipate for revenue?
Do we have?
Well, you want to?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, if we're looking at a conservative number of 11,000 riders for the first year, so just to help you guys look at this, if it's 11,000 riders, so that's $25 a head on that, and then I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head?
Somewhere a little bit shy of 300 that first year. So if it's 10,000 riders, $25 each, right? 11,000 is a little over that. There might be some merchandise sales associated with it, so say 300 or so.
Yeah.
You base that revenue projection on other existing operations that you've done, is that correct, or where are you pulling that number from?
We based on the number of bikes that we have, so we plan on having 9 quad bikes and 6 tandem bikes. So it would end up being around 46 riders that we would have, and then so we're basing it off of 100%, 80%, and 60% projection. Up in Saranac Lake last year, we ran close to 90% throughout the whole summer. So we're looking at a 60% projection is bringing us into the 11,000.
Well, that's a very conservative projection.
Yeah.
We feel it's very conservative.
Yeah. So we just want to be safe.
Thank you.
Yeah. And this is Jim. I just want to introduce. Yeah. So Jim is with the Stony Creek Ranch.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jim Bilski. I was formerly the general manager of Thousand Acre Ranch from spring of 2012 up until Labor Day weekend of 2014. I'm happy to say that the ranch has been purchased by a wonderful group, and we're looking to expand and grow this business, and with that provide more jobs for our area and reach out and work with the community as well. One of my greatest challenges as a manager there was trying to keep the people happy. And with the way the economy is these days and what it costs us to operate and the amount of improvements that we have to make, we are directly competing with the world for vacation. One of the biggest things that's been brought to me over the years was, why do I want to come here to your ranch when I can go to Mexico and go to Cancun for the same price and have so many more activities? So this is not only going to stimulate the economy as a whole, but also stimulate our business, because we need to offer more things for our guests to do. There's never enough to do. Things today are not the same. People don't want to sit around by the pool all day long. People are active, they want to get out. Most of our clientele are coming out of New York City, Boston area, many metropolitan areas that are looking to see the outdoors and experience the Adirondacks at its best. I feel this is a great opportunity to not only help the towns, the local area, but our business as well, which will be, by the way, providing approximately 50 positions to start, okay? So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Thanks.
So Justin was next.
Oh,
I did just want to address why you haven't heard about this previously. There was a number of meetings that had to happen very quickly just to determine from both an operations standpoint and from a compliance standpoint as to whether or not an idea like this could even move forward. They did reach out to me after the last committee meeting, so we pushed everything forward as quickly as we could to make sure that when we did present this to you, it wasn't just an idea, but it was actually an idea that did have traction behind it, because we have fleshed out all of the operational issues. And last Tuesday, Gus and I were at our Network Operations Center in Janesville, Wisconsin, to meet with the compliance team just to make sure that from the Federal Rail Administration standpoint, we weren't doing anything that could come up in question that would jeopardize this or possibly, prevent this from happening at a later date. So this is literally the earliest that this announcement could have happened. So.
Supervisor Salmon.
Thank you, Chairman. You're using our rail line. You have people potentially falling out of carts. You have timing of trains. How strong is your liability package?
We will have a strong indemnity.
We'll be carrying regular railroad excursion liability insurance for the event, so we'd be paying the same basically amount of insurance as if we had a 100-ton train and we only have 1-ton carts. Basically, from a safety standpoint, I think one thing we might have glossed over was everybody is belted in and everybody does remain seated for the whole ride. So nobody gets out on the right of way. We control access to the carts at platform locations at either end, and so those are the kind of things that are really important to us, because it is railroading, and we want to keep it fun, recreational, and safe. And it is safe. Rob and I helped run the operations up there in Saranac Lake, and we had 10,000 passengers, and up there we had 5 grade crossings, and we had no incidents. So we were very proud of that.
You have guides that go.
And we have guides. It is a guided. It's much like a raft trip, but imagine you have a guide in the front, who's the conductor/engineer, who's the lead cart setting the pace, and then a guide in the back. Basically as a sweeper, making sure that the whole flock is moving forward. We didn't really talk about that, but it moves as a flock. You've got some space between you. It is a leisurely ride. It is not a roller coaster. It's a nice something between 5 and 15 miles an hour typically. So it's to get out there and enjoy the scenery. It's not a spin class.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you. I just have 2 points. One is Mr. Gagno's statement that amendments need to be reflected in the minutes. They, in my opinion, should also be coming to the full board. If we're amending the contract, that should come up to the full board for approval of a contract amendment. Secondly, I think this idea is really cool, but as Supervisor Silkel pointed out, these are our rails. I'm not sure why they didn't come to us first, why we're just learning about it through the railroad. Certainly they need to jive their recreational use of our railroad with the railroad's operations, but really this is something that should, again in my opinion, be worked out between us and the county, and then making sure that we can work with the railroad's operations as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
We saw this as the first opportunity to have a public forum meeting about this, and so I thought this was our first opportunity, sort of. So we're getting to know the lay of the land with a lot of these things. So I apologize if you feel like I just wanted to let you know that there was nothing malicious or anything. And I don't think you're implying that, but we thought Justin was the first person to reach out to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else for them? Okay, we'll move on to laying them off.
I just briefly wanted to go over, you have a document in front of you called Conceptual Framework for the First Wilderness Heritage Trail. This is something that we've been working on for a number of years in the First Wilderness Program. The original plan that was done and adopted by this board back in 2002 called for the development of had a goal in there for a bicycle trail, along the river rail corridor. When we actually, had the consultants at that point in time, the Saratoga Associates, take a look at all those different ideas, the shoulder width and the roadways, just did not lend themselves to something that we wanted to promote for safe, operations. So we then started looking at, an off-road type trail that was both pedestrian, equestrian, and, where allowed by the unit management plans and the, land use classifications of the Adirondack Park to allow for off-road biking. So what you have in front of you is the conceptual framework. It takes a lot of existing trails that are there, connects them by roadways right now for the short term, and looks at the long-term, methodology to connect as a full trail off the highway type trail. Where it is appropriate, we have also looked at, and will continue to look at, a Rails with Trails program. Iowa Pacific, Ed Ellis was here. He is in concept agreed to that, said we can look at that. If the terrain and the situation merits it, a Rails with Trails program is agreeable to the operator on their Sanford Lake line. I'm not going to go through this page by page, but the page 3 kind of gives you an overview of some suggested routes. This is an 80-plus mile trail designed to mirror the Northville Placid hiking trail, which is a 110-mile trail. Roughly every 10 to 13 miles, consistent with how the Northville Placid trail is, you would come to a hamlet or a population center of some kind, and that's where people can overnight, buy services, and whatever. So this is, again, it's a preliminary framework. We have secured additional grant funding in the 2014 grant award, which we're still waiting on the contract from the state, to take this to the next step and to actually define the layout that's preferred for the short term, and to identify any easements or conservation easements that would be necessary to make this happen. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Supervisor Simpson and I talked about this, and he, at his request, wanted me to bring this to you for just, education, and that there is something going on out there relative to a trail system in the corridor. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay. Oh, of course.
It looks so lost up there.
Yeah.
If this requires amendments to UMP, do you see that as a major impediment? I mean, is that
I see it as,
has been done elsewhere, or?
I see it as a long-term issue, a long-term resolution, and that's why in some sections we're looking at using existing roadways, much like the Northville Placid Trail. There's a 7-mile section that uses roadways for that trail. We would look at the same thing and have the long-term solution of requesting amendments to unit management plans. And that's part of the next phase of this, is to identify which plans, if any, would require an amendment to allow this. The big issue for amendment is bicycles.
Right.
And because, when you get north of North Creek and a lot of the unit management plans, they're not allowed. So, that's something that we would have to look at, is which unit management plans are affected, and that depends on where the actual trail layout goes. If you go through that page by page, there are a number of existing trails that are in there that would be connected, much as the Santanoni, the trail in the Great Camp Santanoni, that allows bicycles up to Santanoni, but beyond, you've got an issue. So, and same for some equestrian uses. So, that's, again, yes, it's a long-term issue that would require, unit management plan amendments. We'll identify those and start the process if it becomes necessary.
Got faith.
Been at this a long time.
Supervisor Trump? I would just turn it over to you.
When you say unit That's the Eldridge part.
Yes, DEC's unit management plans, yes.
Well, it's gotta get approved by APA.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I wanna also go back, on the Renegades, proposal. We really don't have anything, you know, on paper, but what is the feeling of the committee as far as how we should move forward with this? I mean, is the committee conceptually in approval of this plan, and what would you like for our next step to be? You know, we need to decide whether it's gonna be a three-way contract, which is something I haven't talked to Justin about, whether it's you know, Warren County, Saratoga North Creek and them, or is it just between Saratoga North Creek and Renegades? Supervisor Wood?
I would make a motion that we conceptually approve it pending the county attorney review and decide whether it needs to be a three-way or not. I'm not certain with our lease agreement whether we need to have a separate agreement for them or if it's something that can be just between the train and the Renegade Rail. So I would say conceptually move it forward and let the county attorney sort out the finer details.
Okay, we have a motion, second by Supervisor Merlino. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Go ahead, Doug.
So this is gonna go to the full board, correct? This,
Everything has to go to the full board
Okay.
eventually.
okay, so I'm still trying to get a handle on this, and I apologize, you know, because it's obviously brand new. So, the railroad, Mr. Ellis and his company will get a piece of the action, does the county get a piece of the action? I mean, I'm trying to, who, I know, you know, you'll make a profit, who shares in that profit, or who doesn't share in that profit? I guess it's as simply said as that. So, I'm not sure if you guys have worked that out yet or not, but I think that's fairly important to know.
I think that's why I'm taking direction from the committee to find out if we even need to move forward, or whether, you know, there isn't a acceptance of this. We have to decide that. This was just a motion or a resolution to go further to the next step. We need to work that out. There's gonna be more meetings,
Okay, so.
more information
More
coming.
detail on that?
Yeah, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. This time I'll turn it over to Paul Butler.
Okay, I'm reporting on the Alpianda Pancake Breakfast, which was held March 6th. We had 150 guests, which is average, and it's a good turnout. So just following up on the Maple Fest. The next item is a large salmon has been caught this past winter. You might have seen it in the paper. It was a 15-pound salmon, and it made the headlines. Wanted to point out that we have a program with the state where they drop off 3,000 salmon to us at about 7 inches, and we release them in the fall with a fin clip, and this fish came directly from that program. So it is working. There's been reports of more salmon caught, smaller, but a couple of feet. So the salmon fishery is coming back, apparently, in Lake George, and that's what this article is explaining.
So this fish was raised at the hatchery?
It was raised at the hatchery for three or 4 months. The idea being, bigger salmon, bigger fish will have less predation on them, and which is, that's what happened, I guess. So it's coming back, and the fishermen are very happy. Next item, just to let you know that we're beginning our spring stocking. We stocked Crandall, Hubby Pond, and today we are doing Halfway Brook. So we're starting slow, but it'll pick up, and we're starting our program now.
Okay. If there's nothing further for the parks, we'll move into DPW.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. On the DPW agenda, the first item is a request to amend Resolution 616 of 2015 for Care Environmental. This is the contractor that is conducting the household hazardous waste. They are licensed through state DEC, and, they won the contract. On page 2 are some of the, rates that the county will be paying based on the materials taken in for those 2 hazardous waste days. And the original contract that we established, or the original resolution that we established with them, had set a nominal amount because we thought we would need their assistance in developing the plan and actually submitting to DEC for final approvals. We didn't use any of their services. We were able to conduct that directly with DEC. But this resolution would increase their contract to the $50,000 amount, which is our total estimate now for the 2 household hazardous waste days. You might recall our earlier estimates were less, and we were hoping that DEC would come back and tell us that if we went over the original amounts, if we collected a lot more, they would still cover 50% through their grant program. They told us they would not, so we took a harder look at our estimates and have revised our estimates to $50,000 to maximize that DEC grant potential.
Okay, do we have a motion? Supervisor Sokol, second by Supervisor Merlino. Is that for one in, or both?
If I could
Or do you
discuss
wanna do-
the next one
Oh, I
on page
thought you-
6, I'll discuss that a little bit too. I can talk that now if you want.
Let's vote on this and go to the next one. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, and page 6 is a request to amend budget for the household hazardous waste collection. The plan would be to move funding into our general fund A1628, which is our solid waste code that we use for repair of containers and other things already ongoing. We do need to advance $50,000 to that fund to go ahead with the 2 household hazardous waste days. I was hoping to have a DEC grant in hand by this committee meeting, but we've been in constant communication with DEC regarding their timeline. They're behind on authorizing grants. They're telling us verbally that it wouldn't be a problem, but we are not anticipating a formal grant until sometime in June is what they're telling us now. So that'll mean we will have already committed to collecting some waste and may not have the grant documents before we are complete. So DEC is behind. Originally, they were estimating just a couple-week turnaround, and that did not happen. So I am anticipating another amendment back in later this summer to come back and accept that grant. But in the meantime, with our timeline, we really need to designate that $50,000 into the project or into the operating code for solid waste management, so that we can continue on our timeline.
I'll say, along with that, I was on the phone with DEC this morning on the way here on another issue, and I got the same excuse. They can't spend any money until June, their budget.
This is a $25,000 grant.
It's a 50%, right, so we're anticipating that. We've been in touch with them. We've submitted the grant documents. You know, unfortunately, with our timing of this, as I said, we're gonna collect the waste on May 21st and June 18th, are 2 dates. So we'll need to advance that to stay on our timeline, otherwise we're looking at some serious rework of our existing contracts and timeline.
Pleasure of the board. Make the motion?
It's a little bit, I think it might be a little bit too much for our contingency account, I don't know.
I think you got it, yes.
All right, and then we would be reimbursed, anticipate the reimbursement of 25. Now, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Target of 50. What keeps it from becoming 100? What keeps it from becoming 75? In terms of what ends up being the cost?
We've never done one of these before. There is some risk in, as we discussed before, we're not charging fees to the users, So you do run risk that people take waste from their families' homes outside the county and bring them as their own. There certainly is that risk. We are controlling it, and that we're checking residency, and non-residents won't be able to participate. But we really don't know how much is being held in people's basements and garages. So I think there is certainly a risk. I don't know, based on our prior conversations operationally, how I could track that during the day and say, okay, we're stopping, we hit our 50,000. I don't think that's possible, and I don't think it would be consistent with the goal of getting the household hazardous waste turned in if we kind of try and do that. So we did look carefully at our estimates based on, I know Kevin and his staff had looked at area events that have been held in the past. I know Town of Queensbury, I think their cost was about 50,000 when they did it 6 or 7 years ago.
I forget what the cost was.
Well, I think the proper disposal of these items is important. I'll make the motion that we transfer the necessary funds, $50,000 from our contingency account, with the expectation that to this program line, and that the reimbursement from DEC be used, returned to the contingency account to replace at least half of what we've taken. So I would make that as a motion.
Let me get a second, then we'll have more. Okay, Supervisor Merlino, second. Okay, discussion.
I just want to be clear, because there was some question before, if we go over the 50,000, would the grant be amended, or could we amend the grant so that it was still 50% of whatever it was? And the DEC has told us no, that the grant is for 50. They would, once we get awarded the grant, it would be up to 50% of the 50,000, or 25,000 max. Anything above and beyond the 50,000 would be 100% county cost.
I get calls in my little town, every so often, about people that have been storing this stuff for years in their basement or other places, and, if it costs us, it costs us, but we've gotta get rid of this stuff. Years ago, in a former life, I was working for DEC, and happened to catch a guy throwing stuff over the bank into the North Creek. I just don't want people to have that excuse that we can't provide a means for them to dispose of it, especially if they want to do it. How can I get rid of this? Sorry, you're on your own. Doesn't fly. So, glad to see it move forward.
Okay, any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the next item's on page 8. This is authorization for a new contract for County Route 17, 52, and 79 Highway Preservation Project. This is currently out to bid, and bids will be received tomorrow. So we'd like to be able to award that and move contracts forward so we can get an early start on the construction work. I'm requesting authorization for the new contract based on the lowest responsive bid.
Motion made by Supervisor Sokol. Second. Supervisor Frazier. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
On page 9 is a request for a new contract. This is for construction inspection services for that same construction work, awarded to Creighton Manning Engineering, and this is covered by the grant that we received on the project.
Motion by Supervisor Wood. Do we have a second? Supervisor Frazier. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Page 15 is an authorization for new contract for Spectra Engineering. This is for periodic structural engineering services. This is a contract that we award annually, and we use for various building systems and bridge evaluations. And so we're recommending award to Spectra Engineering. This was done based on a RFP.
Someone like to move that? Supervisor Peninsula, seconded by Supervisor Merlino. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
On page 17 is a request to establish a new road project for Bay Road in Lake Luzerne. And this is a new project that is necessary based on some adjacent work. The town has a grant to do sidewalks, and as they got further along in the engineering process, determined that the road was going to have to be modified in order to maintain curb reveal on the new sidewalks. So I'm recommending a move of some funding out of our snow removal supplies. We are well ahead of budget regarding our salt usage, and so I'm recommending moving $50,000 out of those snow removal supplies into a new road project for, and it should be Bay Road, not Bay Street.
Supervisor Sokol made the motion. Supervisor Wood, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Okay, on page 18 is transfer request. It includes the $50,000 to go to the Bay Road project, but then it also is another move from within our traffic safety code. We simply put some equipment monies in the wrong code, so we're requesting a transfer out of our supply code into an equipment code of $16,500, and that's to purchase another VMS board, variable message system board, which actually we use quite often. We have had to rent some in prior years, so we're looking to purchase one and reduce our rental costs on the various road projects we use them on.
Supervisor Molino, second by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
On page 20 is an intent to backfill. This is for senior engineering technician. This is one of our engineering positions. This is a technician who we use in various road and facility projects. We're requesting that backfill. It's an existing position. It's a budgeted position.
Supervisor Sokol, seconded by Supervisor Wood. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
And the referral items, I just put in the pending receipt of the DEC grant, which we've already discussed. I'll certainly advise the committee as soon as I get formal word from DEC where that grant is. Under the items for discussion and review, would like an opportunity to answer any questions on the household hazardous waste days. But we have put information out to the towns. We have our websites active. Again, the registration is important, really for the members of the community to save time on site. We can only process so many vehicles at a moment, and the operation will essentially run a car at a time as they come in. They will stop, provide their pre-confirmation that we'll get to them once they register. And the actual residents won't unload their vehicles, so that'll be done by the contractor who's got all these licensed hazardous waste handlers. So they will pull in, the material will be removed from their vehicles, and then they'll pull out. For those residents that don't pre-register, we'll ask them to pull into a separate line. We'll provide them registration documents, get a handle on what materials they have, and then we'll circulate them back through the line. Contractor can only process so many cars per hour. So our hope is that people will register in advance. We can give them a time slot and prevent as much as possible a long line waiting. So that's really the critical part. But they can register online through a online registry. They can print forms off the web page and mail them in or fax them in. They can also stop at any town hall, and also the transfer stations are going to have materials. So in person, they can stop there, and the town halls all have the materials necessary. We provided laminated posters and regular posters for their advertising of this, and then they would be able to assist residents that don't have computer access to be able to give an estimate of the types of materials they're sending in so that we can properly schedule them so that it's fluid motion for their selection.
Jeff, let me add to that real quick. That online registration is actually on the Warren County's main page. And then it'll take them to the link, which they'll do the registration through there. So it's on the main page right now, the Warren County website.
Supervisor Strell?
Do you think the towns and the cities should also include on the websites that link to the registration form?
I think the town of Queensbury would. They're more than welcome to set up the link. That would be up to you. But we have a link, so if anybody goes into the main Warren County website, it'll automatically bring them to the registration form.
What we'll do is we'll send the link out to all the board members, and that way that you can, certainly that would be helpful for you to coordinate with your local IT guys to post that.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is, we have Patrick Eldridge is here. You may recognize him from last summer. He came and requested permission to use a parking area that's off highway, but on the right-of-way near exit 24, County Route 11 in the town of Warrensburg. And at that, last summer, we had authorized a license agreement to allow him to set up a mobile hot dog cart for periods of time in July and August. Unfortunately, the delay in approving contracts and getting them through the paperwork shuffle here at the county center didn't really give him an opportunity to operate last summer. But he had approached me some weeks ago and asked for another look at that, and he'd like to give that a shot starting this summer. So Mr. Eldridge is here. I don't know if you want to address the committee or if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to mention that this will be my third year in operating my hot dog cart. So far, so good. And I haven't had any complaints on my cart. Well, I should say I had one complaint. That's my wife. she stops by every once in a while, if she's in the area. And she always says, and if I'm busy, she'll be in the background having a hot dog or a drink or whatever. And then after the customers would leave or something, I'd start wiping the cart down, getting it clean, ready so it looks decent. I'll just sit down and take a break. Well, now I can't. I gotta She left home, she does it. But anyway, I met a lot of people, and a lot of people really like the idea of a cart. Okay, and I think it's not so much the food, because I only serve, top quality dogs, all beef dogs, whatever. But a lot of them, they mentioned that they just like the experience of being at a cart. And I've been up to Oscar's Smokehouse the last 2 summers, and it's been really great up there. It's busy, and people just love the idea of a cart. And the experiences are good, and Jerry liked it so well, Jerry Quintel liked it so well that he bought his own cart. So I hope we have to this summer. People really like the idea of a cart, I think it's the experience a lot that they don't have around here very much. I've had people mention how very well that I keep my cart really clean. And up to Oscars especially, they get a lot of people up there like from New York and New Jersey area stuff that they have carts down there, and they tell me how bad they are down in the city, not very clean. And so they're really surprised at that too. And like I said, I haven't had any problems, and as Jeff mentioned there last year, I was approved to do it, but just through the paperwork and stuff, it didn't work out anymore. And to mention, I am fully insured. I'm inspected by the health department. And it's a small cart, okay? I have pictures if anybody would like to take a look at it. That's one of the ones to stand behind, It's got the umbrella on it. It's red and yellow umbrella. Hooks it back to my car and I unhook it. And that's how I've been. I don't know anybody has any questions or anything?
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, thank you. I don't, I mean, I view the question that's in front of us is simply the use of our property, not the approval of the use. And so, it would seem to me that on any request like this, we should want to have the authorization of the use from the municipality first, or our action should be contingent on the approval of the use. Today's Warrensburg, tomorrow it might be Thurman, the next day it might be, you know, you don't know where it's gonna come from, you don't even know how many. But we haven't been dealing with that many, but just looking down the road a little bit, I'm thinking, well, you know, there may come a time when this becomes a problem, but if it would seem to me that if Jeff feels there's sufficient area there and the town is generally in support of it, that at least at this moment in time, I don't have any serious objection to it. It's just, as I look down the road, though, I do worry the use of county property in all different types of municipalities. And what do we do if we get another request at this location, or even two? But we don't have to make problems that don't exist, but I'm just saying I could envision.
Supervisor Wood?
I know we vetted this pretty thoroughly last year, and Supervisor Garrity was in favor of it. I would be fine with making a motion to move this ahead contingent on Warrensburg's approval, which I don't doubt will be forthcoming if it isn't there already. So I'd make a motion, we go ahead and approve it.
Second, Mr. Molino. Any other discussion?
Just a couple points of clarification. What we did last year was the board authorized me to issue a license agreement, or even just maybe it was a concurrence, because I think I have authority for certain permits within the county right away. So what we executed last year was a license agreement. There was a fee attached. I think it was $25 for the season. And then there was multiple controls in place that would allow me to cancel that, and certainly, I think there's even language in there about maintaining contact with the local municipality to make sure that there's no other concerns. I think there's already an agreement in place. It's just a matter of changing some dates on it, and certainly distribute that to anyone with any concerns to see if there's other language we need to include in there.
Yes, I'd also like to mention, that, well, so people know, that I do have my garbage cans there, and I do have my recycling cans there, so there's water bottles and soda cans there. If there's a mess there, they won't be there when I leave. They look better when I leave than when I got there. And, one other thing I'd also like to ask if I could, I know last year, that was decided that I could work the month of July and August, which is fine, it's great, because it's gonna be the busiest months anyway. But I'd also like to ask for consideration, and maybe working, one more weekend, which would be Labor Day weekend, because it tends to be a busy weekend, other than that. Just add one more weekend in after August, or Labor Day.
I'm agreeable to that.
Would you amend? Okay. Okay, so we have motion and a second. You got a question?
No.
Oh, no, we have.
All right.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the next item.
Thank you.
The next item on page 21 is a letter we received from Mayor Blaze. One of the items on here is really for Public Works to consider, and that's the line where he's requesting an increase to their percentage of revenue that they retain, and that's for the Westbrook Parking Lot. The county owns two parking lots in the Village of Lake George. One is the Beach Road parking lot, and one is the Westbrook parking lot. The mayor's right now, the mayor keeps 10% of the cash collections on the Westbrook parking lot. He's requesting an increase to 15%. I know in our, there may be some budget impacts that I haven't really thought through fully because we did anticipate the 10% for the expanded, parking lot as we did the expansion last fall, and so we've projected some increased revenues on that parking lot, so we have to take a look at that. I don't know if the impact is significant though.
Yeah, I'd like to see that analysis done by staff and also cast into real numbers and not percentages, so that we know. I don't have a sense of percentages.
Yeah.
What kind of dollars we're talking about here? We're talking about, you know, $400 or $40,000. I just don't know.
Chairman?
My question is, don't we already, is this over and above, don't we have a contract with him to pay for the meter collection and all that already? Is that separate from this? We have a agreement with him, pay people to sweep and clean and that, right? On the parking lot?
There's two different parking lots and two different agreements.
Okay, but that's separate from this, and then this is over and above, or this is?
No,
is this gonna include taking care of those, paying the meter people?
No, the Westbrook Parking Lot contract is, the mayor's staff, they replace the paper in the machines, and they empty the machines of cash. The credit card revenue comes directly to the treasurer's office. So there is no flat rate on the Westbrook Parking Lot. They simply keep 10% of the cash collections out of machines. In exchange, they will handle, if a machine goes down and there's a disputed parking charge, they do the parking enforcement, or they will issue parking tickets in the lot if someone is there without their ticket from the pay station. They'll replace the paper in those machines, and that is it. And they do it for 10%. There is no flat rate or anything else. The Beach Road parking lot, they maintain everything. They do the sweeping and garbage removal, anything like that. They maintain the parking meters. We own 25% of the parking meters as their total value, but the village keeps 75% of the revenue on the Beach Road parking lot, both the cash and the credit card revenue on the Beach Road lot. So there's two totally separate agreements. My highway department maintains the parking lot as far as mowing the adjacent areas, sweeping, any maintenance that has to be done. The highway department does that, and then back charges against the general fund code for the Westbrook parking lot. Did I answer your question? Yeah.
No, all I wanted to know is, we have these agreements with the mayor, and you agree to a certain percentage, and that includes certain things in that percentage, right? But then all of a sudden you get extra attendance and this and that. I didn't know if that was taken out of, if that was included in the 10% you already pay. I guess that was my question. Is that a separate agreement for the lot attendant, or is that included in?
There is no lot attendant.
There's no lot.
I think you're confusing the Westbrook Park.
I'm confused.
The Westbrook Park is completely separate than the county-owned parking lot. So the Westbrook Park is the festival space. That is charged by the village. They send us bills on a regular basis, and we reimburse them for their labor. This request has nothing to do with the Westbrook Park. It is only to do with the Charles R. Wood Park and the festival space. This has to do with the adjacent county-owned parking lot on Westbrook Road.
Just a question. It's got a golf cart here. Didn't we just approve a golf cart through the other system?
The mayor included multiple requests in here. This is, I think he's saying why he believes he needs the increase, is that his parking attendant that needed a golf cart. He's not asking for money. The golf cart that was approved by the Park O&M committee was for the attendant on the park, not for parking enforcement. So we're talking about 2 different golf carts. He's not asking for reimbursement for the parking golf cart. He's apparently just using that as a reason that he feels that the increased percentage is needed, to cover increased village
Plus,
costs.
he doesn't get a commission on the credit card for it, so
Right.
this is only cash, so if the cash goes down, I mean, I can understand why he might want a little more, because probably as the years go by, more and more people use credit cards than cash.
But we did expand the parking lot, and we are adding 4 more machines, which will take cash and credit cards. So we're anticipating a significant increase, about a 50% increase in revenue this year. I don't know whether the majority of that revenue will come in credit cards or cash, or what the mix would be.
Supervisor Wood?
Even if we're looking at a, say, 50% increase, I would think that the credit cards and the cash would trend similarly, just that there's more spots. And with the mayor receiving 10% of the cash, I would think that his cash receipts would trend accordingly as well. So, you know, I think there may be potentially an increase there in and of itself. I know there's more places that need to be taken care of, but I would think that the cash receipts would increase as well.
He keeps all ticket revenue. He keeps the ticket revenue.
The parking fines, I don't believe that comes back to us. I think it's shared by the court cost and their cost.
I'd like to be supportive, I just can't evaluate it based on the letter that I received, that I'm looking at right now. I just have no way to evaluate what it means. I'm sure it's probably very reasonable, and I'd like to be supportive, I just don't know. To go from 10 to 15%, I don't know what that means.
Well, there's plenty of time on the contract, so if the committee's in agreement, we can move it over to the next meeting, next month. Is that okay with? Okay.
Works for me.
Okay, I don't have any other, items for discussion. Just have the normal tracking reports attached to the agenda. That's all I have.
I just have one question about the salt. Do you have any idea of what the overall impact was over the year, you know, the winter that we had, plus, minus, storage fees, how this all worked out?
Our salt usage was down, for this calendar year. We are anticipating, at least at the county, we need to take delivery of about 1,200 tons, by August. So, the way we're handling it is by temporary storage, and I think some of the towns are looking at the same thing, basically establishing, impervious barrier with, 6 mil poly or something, be able to store and stockpile salt, take delivery in August, and then that would be the first salt we start using as the winter season begins. So we're really just talking about temporary stockpiles for a few months, and then we would use that first, and then start replenishing our salt sheds. So we have a plan already in place to take 1,200 tons, and I think many of the towns are in the same situation where they need to take delivery or start paying a fee. I think it's $3 and change per ton.
Actually, Jeff, they just lowered it. ODS has just come down on that storage fee. I'm not sure what it is, but they've come down from that $3.
So we're not anticipating paying any storage fees, because we're gonna come up with a plan to take delivery.
I hear Thurman has a lot of room.
We do. It just keeps tipping away.
I was gonna say, we could rent you some space, and, or maybe we could purchase some salt from you.
Thanks, we have plenty of space. We have this field right in the back here.
Okay, is there anything for the committee, from the committee? Okay, motion adjourned.
Kevin, could I touch base with George on that?
Fill the basement.
You want to use that?
You're gonna stay here for a minute?
Whole cellar.
Touch base.
I just want to get right back together. I just need to get Jeff.